Hi everyone. In today's video discussion, I would like to talk about women leading men into their balance. Now, we all know that we are in a patriarchal society, and what that simply means is there's an emphasis on compete, compare, and contrast. That is very much the male archetype. The compete, compare, and contrast, with a focus on logic, reason, linear time. Okay? So with this patriarchal experiment that we can probably all agree that was not the most successful, the patriarchal hierarchy, is that now the whole cosmos is giving us the opportunity to reorganize the way we structure our lives, from the very micro to our lifestyle with our health, with our well-being, with our personal relationships, to the macro, the way we govern institutions, corporations. So with the compete, compare, and contrast, you'll see little boys. Okay, that's just a part of the masculine design, while the feminine is about caring, sharing, and including. Okay, inclusion. So with the patriarchal experiment, with the compete, compare, and contrast, it got very muddy, didn't it? Okay, and we have many periods throughout, let's say, thousands of years, periods of time where we have a lot of periods, particularly right now, with disease, illness. You know, it took me a while to find a spot to record because there's trash in the forest, okay? And the patriarchal experiment kind of made that like, oh, that's normal. That's a part of the just life, okay? So we've gotten so used to, oh, you know, just every couple generations there's just going to be a disease and there's just going to be a plague, and that's just normal. Oh, that's just normal. Oh, you know, it's just a part of it. You know, you just got to keep going with it. And that's why the patriarchal experiment was not successful, because we've had all kinds of plagues, all kinds of diseases, all kinds of imbalances all around this planet in many different geographic regions. Okay, but now it's all coming to a head when it comes to the patriarchal had its time to figure things out and to function, a higher function, but the patriarchal did not have the psychic ability to be able to reach its higher function. So higher function is you stabilize a structure, particularly, let's say, the compete, compare, and contrast design of the patriarchal. You structure it in a way where it's very consistent, meaning we're not having all of these plateaus and then these rises. Yes, we are a part of eras and ages that has a rising and has a fall, kind of like a wave of motion. That's a part of the motion of Mother Earth to constantly keep us in more of a rotation. Everything has to rotate. Everything has to circulate. Everything has to distribute. Everything. That's how you keep vitality on this planet Earth. But what we've seen is a function that is faking it until it makes it. But we've been faking it for thousands of years that it's gonna make it, that it's gonna work. Okay? But the thing is, without psychic ability, which is a female, the female design, without psychic ability, you do not know or have the internal knowing or the internal wisdom on how to stabilize yourself in correlation to your environment, to the cosmos, to relationships, because it requires sharing, caring, and including. And that's why the feminine energy, there's a great focus on feminine getting their empowerment, because when a woman is empowered, the sharing, caring, inclusion can, just the presence, the resonance of it can support a man to hold, yes, he can have the compare, compete, and contrast, but overall, the woman brings integrity and dignity to those things. So as men, if we're just all with our swords up, we all want to be king, I'm going to be king. What's happened is, in our need to be king, in our endless desire to be the best, the top of the hierarchy, because at the top of the hierarchy, we're rewarded. We're rewarded for being that. So men have basically put up their sword and lost all sense of integrity and dignity just to compete, just to compare, just to contrast, to be rewarded. So patriarchal design was being rewarded for a sense of being foolish, not having integrity or dignity. So with women being the sharing and caring, including design, that helps men to rise into their reverence in a state of authenticity rather than a state of disgrace. Okay, we have some disgrace going on in the patriarchal design within all of us, even men and women. So women, I've said in another video, they're the leaders and men represent the followers. So in the patriarchal experiment, we have so much following. We're all following each other. We're doing what everybody else is doing because we don't have our own sovereignty of intelligence. Women represent the sovereignty of intelligence, like Krishna and Radha, or Shiva and Shakti. So what that means is sovereignty is able to make war productive instead of war inefficient. We've lost all our resources as a nation. We are dirt poor, we are starving, we are diseased, we are dead. That is women, or the energy of the balance which women evoke, is bringing productivity to war, which we've had even Joan of Arc bringing productivity to war. It's bringing nourishment to disease. Okay, so nourishment such as herbal medicine, these kinds of things have been used throughout time. It's also bringing wisdom to the uneducated, which is the fool. Okay, the fool, the disgrace. Okay, and it's bringing transparency to the facade. Okay, so the facade is like the monarch ages of, oh, everyone wants to be king because they are rewarded for basically being a facade. But women bring back the transparency to help men recognize their greater power. Their greater power. Okay, but women have not cultivated this power within themselves for thousands of years. Well, witches and, burned at the stake, and crucifixion, all of that kind of stuff. But the power, the internal power, is overall, it is equalizing and harmonizing, balancing yourself with the ecosystem. And it's really simple. It's not something so... We're not trying to dominate each other. We're not trying to oppress or submit to each other. We're just trying to balance ourselves with our ecosystem so that we can keep ourselves in a nice adaptability, a consistency with the ecosystem, so that we're always resourceful, we're always productive, we're always aware, we're always psychic. So therefore, we're always in this state of understanding what's going on, rather than the patriarchal experiment, which was misunderstanding in war, misunderstanding in family, leading to generations of family against family. And what has that led to? It hasn't led to any breakthrough into the higher function. Okay, so the attempt to get to the higher function in the patriarchal design, the hierarchy, you could see it, the caste system, where those at the top are rewarded for basically kind of degrading the ones at the bottom. That system, women, through their caring and sharing and inclusion, can guide men into their authenticity. So this is how we do it, okay? So if we're a woman and we see that a man is playing a game, we know when a man's playing a game. Men, it's part of their design to play the game. As back in the monarch ages, we had to play a game to get what we wanted. So we got to play the game. And it's not necessarily a negative thing. It's just, a masculine kind of mold that we have going on. It's kind of like play the game. Like, here's my facade. Here's my credentials. This is why you should reward me, because I got into this kind of stature. But women, the game they're playing, the stature they hold, is there strength behind that? Is there consistency behind it? Because if there's not strength or consistency, authenticity behind it, then it is a facade. It's not real. Okay? So when you're playing the game, you have to decide as a woman, do you want to play that? Do you want to play a man's woe is me, pity party? Do you want to play that with them? Okay? And you can decide early on in a relationship if you want to play. If you don't, you say, I don't want to play the game. And if enough women said that, then men would have to change their game, or they would have to adapt, because men, like I've said many times, men need women. Women do not necessarily need men, maybe for procreation, but women are so dynamic, so expansive, that they can get themselves what they need internally. Men, they need women because women have the access to expansion, to psychic ability, to give men the tool on how they can get what they want creatively without slipping into the slums of desperation, of insecurity, of all of that kind of messiness. Okay? So as a woman, if we hold ourselves in that position of true strength and true authenticity, and we decide the game that we play, and we're very strong about this, very stern about this, then men will have a choice. They can either rise up or drop out. And that's how we're really ultimately going to help us all transition into a new lifestyle. It's like we're attempting, or we're probing a new lifestyle in which can not necessarily override the system we have right now, but to alter the system we have now so that it can grow and it can evolve into a totally makeshift new sort of system that doesn't have, you could say, these power struggles, okay? The power struggles that we have. Like, the power struggle is kept us in this reptilian part of the brain where we're always this fight or flight. The power struggles, we always feel like somebody's maybe out to get us, or we have to compete for something, or we have to, like, back in the olden days, monarch, we have to kill somebody because they got what we got. And that is a part of the power struggles with the patriarchal age. Because when you're psychic, when you're magnetic, there is no power struggle, because your magnetism gives you what you want and need, and it's just through your magnetism. And that is a sacred teaching of the feminine energy, which is inclusion, caring, and sharing. Okay, so with that, it becomes a community of well-being, a community of prosperity, a community of innovation, because we're working together rather than I'm in my secret corner plotting what I'm going to do to get what I want. Because the power of the collective is a lot stronger than the power of up in the corner. I'm going to do this to get what I want. Okay, that always leads to a power struggle and opposition. So with the patriarchal, it's always been about opposition. Okay, with the matriarchal, the feminine is always been about understanding. So opposition and understanding, understanding creates a willingness to be receptive, as well as a willingness to listen, to be attentive, and to be aware. Well, opposition is an inability to recognize yourself It's an inability to bring awareness to yourself, and this overall can create a fixed sort of plot line, okay, fixed sort of intelligence. But women are not fixed intelligence level. They are expansion. They are multidimensional. Okay? So, when we decide as women, like, if we meet a man, okay, and let's say we're single or whatnot, and the man is playing some sort of game, okay, we could sense it because women know. Now, women who are in a game with a man, and they're all of a sudden 6 months later, I don't like the game. You were playing the game from day one. You knew what you were getting into from day one because you are a woman and you are psychic. And either it could be due to your self-worth is low, or you don't listen to your intuition, but overall your psychic knowingness knew the game you were playing. But you set the stage, you set what kind of game you're gonna play. Everything is like a game of dice, it's like a game of chess. And if you make it very clear through your own transparency, through your own magnetism, through your own very electric or supercharged pineal gland, frontal lobe, very highly active, you can penetrate a man and he can sense, oh wait, she can see me. So I either have to rise up or I either have to drop out. Okay? And when we bring, as women, as we continue to come together in our communities, through our self-love, through our kindness, through our compassion for each other, we will basically make being authentic the new trailblazing lifestyle, being authentic. And therefore that will encourage men that they too can come out of the following of other men, the following all around, and they too can become an authentic intelligence, a sovereign being, okay, and still be accepted. Because a lot of times men are not accepted unless they get that kinghood, or whatever that kinghood all men are trying to chase. And when they get it, there's no sense of identity. There's no sense of authenticity. It's just one out of all the others. But when in the matriarchal ages, when we had particular pharaohs that were feminine, a lot of times they came into their queendom and they were very original. They had so many creative, innovative ideas that made them stand aside from, let's say, the other pharaohs that were men. And that is kind of what happened. Men get their reward, but they lose themselves in the process. And when they lose themselves, it's like there is no creativity, there's no innovation, there's no vitality, because you have no connection to yourself. And that's where you get your vitality, the renewal of creativity, so that you can actually give something to the community. So women are about the collective. They represent the higher incarnations. As we know on our ancient timeline, the matriarchal age is always represented the higher incarnations. So we represent the higher incarnations and men represent the lower incarnations, okay? So what that means is men, like I said this before, men, they need that connection to the sharing, clearing, including that the women represents, to bring them out of the compete, compare, and trust that leads to disgrace, that leads to selling your soul so you can be a king, that kind of stuff, so that they can become a more sovereign mind. And then that sovereign mind leading them into their creative empire or legacy, that is their soul. Okay, so we have and that's the kind of the transition that's kind of happening right now. But really, what's the breakdown of this what's the breakdown is that we are getting kind of, let's say, we're getting kind of done with being bored and dull. Okay? And that's happening with the kids. I see, working with children, I see little boys, and they bored with being bored and being dull. So that's the breaking point of this kind of matriarchal system we have, is that the luminosity and velocity of creative power that the women are resonating and emitting out is a lot more enticing, is a lot more exciting for males, than the whole let's just go be dull and boring in our status quo, in our kind of checked out, like zombie, like we're just checked out. Men they're getting to a point where like, okay, yeah, this is really just not feeling it. I don't feel anything. And they're looking at the women, or they're looking at that whole woman structure that women are creating, which is very energetic, which is very vital, which is very creative, which is very uplifted, enthusiastic, motivated, velocity, empowerment. And the men are like, whoa, that is something very much, it's going to lead me somewhere. So that's what's going to help get the whole system, the patriarchal system, into its new rebirth, or its reconfiguration of it. So it's breaking down as we speak, because we're coming to a point where we're just like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that addiction anymore. I don't want to do that negative habit. I don't want to be in this environment anymore. I want to be led somewhere. Take me on a journey, not in a loophole. It's like hole, looping in a hole. Okay? There's a lot of people that are looping in a hole, not just men and women, because in the patriarchal experiment, even women felt like they had to surrender their sovereignty of mind, which is their natural inherent gift as a woman, because women raise children, and women have to be psychic in order to give a child what they need. So if a woman is not psychic, that child is not going to get what it needs to succeed. So women naturally are very much sensitive and psychic and aware, but they surrendered this gift in the patriarchal experiment because they just got so tired of adversity, so tired that they decided that I'm just going to surrender my sovereignty of mind and just give in to the religion, the religious, it could be even economic, it could be even social, the nation ideology. I'm just going to surrender my sovereignty of mind and forget myself. Okay, forget my psychic abilities. So we have women that are basically playing out that patriarchal experiment, and they too are feeling this kind of lackluster for life, and they're playing a game. They're playing the compete, compare, and contrast game, and they're playing it with men, and men are playing it with women, but they're not being led anywhere, are they? They're looping in a hole. It's, looping in a hole in their addictions and bad habits. So the velocity of women is going to basically, because we have Venus, and that represents the woman. Venus is over us right now, Venus. Even the Scorpio energy, it's about like, let's be real, let's be honest, like let's be authentic, and let's like what's working and what's not working, and let's be real about what's working and not working. Okay? And so with the velocity of the empowered woman, that is going to bring about, particularly in raising of little boys, that's going to bring about a household where little boys have the sovereignty of spirit to basically explore their natural talents and gifts, and not feel the pressure of just following just for the sake to follow, because that's what everyone does. So little boys are going to have more so of an expansion within their intelligence rather than a limitation that is, everyone follows this path because everyone before you followed this path, and therefore you must, because breaking that tradition makes you outside of the group of followers. So with an expansion of consciousness, you realize being outside the group of followers, actually it brings you into something that is your own original identity. And that original identity, it brings you closer to the collective as a whole, rather than just closer to a group think that really disconnects you from the overall bigger picture of what it is we're here to do on the planet. So the sensitivity of the woman gives the sensitivity of the children, particularly little boys, the sensitivity to know what is important and what is not. So our what is important got very messy and very murky in the monarch ages. What was very important is being rewarded for being king, and what was really not important is the balancing of the collective within the kingdom. So in the queendom, or the matriarchal design, when a matriarch, even elephants, a matriarch, what is most important is not being rewarded or lick my paws or feed me grapes from the ceiling. No, it was, as the matriarch, as an elephant, how is my people doing? How are the kids doing? Are the kids getting the education they need so they can survive? Do they know how to smell for water holes? Do they know how to feel for lions? That is the matriarch and a part of the elephant group. Now the patriarch was very much about feed me the grapes, and oh, there's disease going on, ugh, that's not important, feed me the grapes. And that is what is being kind of shifted, because the feed me the grapes for too long, when you are completely ignoring, denying, and just looking away from what is the collective, what we have is trash yards. Nobody wants to look at. That's not important. I just need to focus on my job, my kids, and my feeding of my grapes from my beautiful woman, you know, that kind of thing. Or the disease, we have illness, but we pretend that like that's just normal. Oh, you know, that's just, you know, cancer, that's just a normal thing, you know, that's just a typical day in the life of Earth. But the part of the comparing, competing, contrast was always about we forget, we follow, and we ignore. So we forget. So meaning a war happens, the same war happens again, maybe 2 centuries later, literally. Or we follow in the sense of, you know, let us, all institutions, let's just follow this kind of, this group thinking, this group thought, because what else are we going to do? We don't have the expansion of consciousness to actually question, okay, is this actually something that is relevant to this current day and age? Okay, so the circulation of energy is the woman principle. The velocity of energy is always a circulation, keeping things rotating, never keeping things kind of this. And that's why we have these Venus retrogrades, or retrogrades in general, is to reevaluate our thinking so that we can rotate our thinking, so that we're always open to new perspectives, new perceptions, so that we're always filtering in new ideas instead of stale, dull, stagnant things, okay? Stale, dull, stagnant ideas just keep a stale, dull, and stagnant lifestyle, okay? So with the velocity of women surrounding men, that's why empowerment of women is very much a focus for spirituality, is all women in spiritual groups and stuff like that, is because when we go to our children, particularly little boys and even little girls, we go to our husband, our residents, our enthusiasm, our creativity, our vitality, our willingness to think about the collective as us, not as separate. But if the collective's not doing well, then I need to like figure out like how I can be better of service. And that brings men away from that whole feed me grapes from the ceiling, which is entitlement, the privilege, because we're all privileged as Americans, you know, particularly men. And we all just like to, you know, pretend, because we don't feel satisfied as men unless we have grapes being fed to us from our mouth. That's not real. Okay, and get men into their collective awareness, because that collective awareness is what is important, particularly at this time. Okay, we just need to be reminded of that. And a lot of times men have to get so fed up, they have to get so like, I'm done with being bored and being superficial and just lying and just living shallow and just, I'm done with that. Like, it's so boring. It's just boring. It's boring being a stick up the ass. It's boring being serious. It's boring just being this person that just boring, you know? And I want to be eccentric. I want to be extraordinary. And that's what's going to be the push to get men wanting to invite new ideas, wanting to invite new lifestyles, and wanting to overall invite vitality into their life, because they want to be radiant with the women. They're like, whoa, women are radiant. I want to be radiant like the women, because they got something going on, while the zombie people, the zombie men, and they're looping in hole, literally in a hole. That is so boring. I don't want to keep doing that anymore, okay? So, but the thing is, women, what's most important, I've said this in another video, you cannot meet a man where he's at. Women represent the higher dimensions, or the higher vibrations, the higher incarnations. Men need to journey to you. So you are very much the journey, like you lead men somewhere. So you need to not lower yourself down to a man's whatever pity party or whatever he's doing. If he's playing a game, decide it right in the beginning. Are you going to play that? And if you don't, make it clear, this is the game we're going to play. And if you really strike him in the frontal lobe and the pineal gland, that he will either walk away because he's too weak, okay, because we have a lot of weak, or he's going to step up. And that's the thing. That's what's going to set the stage. So there's never any of this betrayal stuff, because you set the stage early on. You just need to take responsibility, because women, we're in this victimization, meaning we've been so into this patriarchal identity where women basically are victims to men. They're like the economy. The economy is not necessarily in favor of women, okay? So we feel victim to that. In relationships, men have always been like dominant and women have to submit. We've been victim to that. But now we have to get out of the betrayal mentality and get into the responsibility of, I have set this stage with this relationship. And if you set it to be kind of like a tricky game and it led to a bad situation in the end, own that. And figure out how can you set a better stage where the game you're playing is one that you actually want to play, okay? And that's important. That's very, very important, because women are the psychic players. You are psychic. So a man, he may just be running off of impulse, basically what he's done in the past and what he's running off, and, you know, that thing, his habits and insecurities and issues. But you're psychic, you know, you can see right into that, and you have to decide, like, the stage of, are we going to be a team where we're going to lead? Is this going to be led into a playful experiment, a playful experience? Or is this just going to be led into just opposition? It's like, I don't know, something in my ear. Okay? So, this is what's going to help us to bring men into the higher incarnations. And it's what's men overall help us to give us the structure and the protection to safeguard our higher dimensions, our higher incarnations, because we always need to have a safeguard to ourselves, or what happens, things get distorted, things get, you know, tainted, ripped, whatever, and it should, when women are generally excited, we're goofy, we're silly, we're playful, just energetic. When we're just energetic naturally, men they just are drawn to that, because it's magnetism that's going on. Now, when a woman is boring, it's because, to a man, it's because that she is not working in her inherent gift, which is psychic, which is creativity, which is spirituality, divinity, reverence. So excitement is what's going to bring the men out of this boring life. Just bored, I'm bored, I'm just gonna go watch porn because I'm bored, I'm just gonna go have sex because I'm bored, I'm just gonna go do that because I'm bored, I'm gonna just buy a car because I'm bored. You know, out of that and into, okay, I see the collective, my woman has showed me the collective, now how can I turn this boredom into productive? I'm gonna do these things because these things connect me into a higher experience, not for myself, not just for myself, but for my environment, for my relationships, for my acquaintances, for my childhood. It uplifts my childhood, for my parent and my past lives and my legacy of my bloodline. It uplifts it. And that is productive work. So men, they've had the consistency, commitment to see things through, but what they were doing was not necessarily something worthy of so much devotion and consistency, such as so much devotion to be king. Men spend their whole lifetime devoting to doing whatever they need to do to be king, and then they get it, and they have nothing. They have nothing in their mind, nothing in their intelligence that can actually do anything or move anything. Can it move anything within the kingdom? You just become a king sitting on a throne with this empty stare, and there's just nothing going on. Okay? So with commitment and devotion, men, it's going to be reprogrammed from just being king to actually nourishing yourself, nourishing your consciousness as a man, so that when you step forward in what you do, you actually have some sort of your own authentic wisdom or presence that can provide an adjustment or an upliftment or an empowerment for somebody, that therefore can adjust them, and therefore they can go out there and create their own lifestyle, their own environment that supports the ecosystem upliftment rather than the ecosystem stagnancy. I'm talking about human in relationship to ecosystem stagnancy. We want to get out of that. We want to get into enthusiasm, charisma, movement, organization, collective well-being, collective understanding, soulful expression, okay? And with the Aquarian Age, it is the women that pioneer it forward. We pioneer it forward. We pioneer through the velocity of our spiritual practice. We pioneer it into a system that's not fooling itself, it's not ignoring, it's not suppressing, it's not denying, but it's a system that's very authentic, it's very real, and it's able to face things because it knows that, okay, we have this sort of thing that maybe doesn't work or maybe it does, but we also have the higher intelligence to actually be able to solve it, creatively solve it. So we're not just living for ourselves in a collective where we just don't care to participate in. We're living in a collective where we are using this level of higher intelligence that leads us somewhere, that women can lead, and we're using that to participate with the collective, strengthen ourselves with the collective. Because it's the weakness. You think about it. All of this weakness, it's been, a lot of men are weak. That's why you have to cheat. That's why you have to deceit or whatever. Because you're so weak. You're a strong individual, doesn't have to do anything like that. And they still get what they want. Okay? Because it's the power of magnetism. It's the power of your resonance, of your vibratory connection to the electromagnetic vibratory field of planet Earth, because planet Earth responds to you and you respond to planet Earth, and you magnetize all of the opportunities planet Earth gives you to actually get you a powerful momentum of, this is what I want, I use the earth to help me, strengthen my auric intelligence, and that becomes my momentum, where the earth literally pushes me for that. So in times of doubt and insecurity, I have such a powerful momentum with my vibratory connection to earth, that the earth is literally, I'm just on a wave, and it is moving me in the direction I set out through the frameworks I created as an intelligent human being. And that's all through, basically, can be through the mantra. It can be through the practice of the yoga. Mantra is very fundamental, because mantra creates the framework in which all of your information in your brain, or emotions, sensuality, sexuality, it filters through that. And since it's such a higher vibration, anything that's low that comes up vibrational wise, it automatically it adjusts to the mantra that you're basically flooding your system with, and it automatically, the mantra upgrades it. It kind of deletes all of the low vibratory, and it transmutates or upgrades them to match the system of the mantra. Okay? So that's how we really get into that momentum of power surge. Like power surge, like when the earth has an adjustment, the cosmos has its adjustments, and we are having a power surge because our power is linked up to the power of these cosmic planetary shifts that are always happening, Now, when we're not sensitive as women, when we are cut off, then our power is limited power, meaning we're power of ourself. And power of the self, particularly for women, is not as magnetic or not as expansive as power that is planetary and cosmic. That gives you about another layer, about probably, or 10 feet across, that probably gives you maybe 40 feet across. Okay, the planetary and the cosmos. So it gets you deep roots because of the earth. So you get like 40 feet down into the earth with your auric intelligence. And you get maybe 40 feet up into the space energy around your head because of your power surging of the cosmos in your heart and the earth in your heart. So these are sacred, almost esoteric teachings that have been around for many thousands of years, because they've been safeguarded from the distortions of the patriarchal filth. So I'll share you briefly one story of the filth. I had a friend whose father, he told a story about his father did like races, and he had a friend that they were, they fixed the cars during the race. And he had a friend that evidently had sex in a motel, like the, pay by the hour motel. And it was just like it was like a hooker. I don't know if it's prostitute. I don't know, hooker. And then this guy got crabs, and from the hooker. And then the dad of this friend I had told the man who had just gotten crabs, he was itching on his genital, to put oil on his genitals, and that the oil would just burn it off. So the man did put oil, burned off the crabs on his genitals. And when I heard that, I was just like, dang, this has been going on, not just this has been going on for a long time, where we have gotten ourselves into really filthy situations. Okay, the man who got the crabs doesn't have the higher intelligence to say no to something, or he doesn't have the psychic ability to actually know, like, hey, this girl has crabs because I can sense it, or I just know, okay, and then get crab, and then putting the oil. It's just a filthy kind of story, but we've heard this countless times throughout planet Earth, and it's always in relation to, a lot of times, just men. Okay, we have filthy women, but usually those women are very victim to, basically victimized or blaming the patriarchal system for why they're this messed up kind of thing. Okay, so I wanted to share that story because I wanted to give an example of what we think is like normal. Oh, you know, that's just normal. And the same father would have his son basically tell his son, program to his son, you need to go out there and you need to just go sleep with whoever. Okay, so again, there's more filth to the filth. It's like the filth is never end. And what that filth does, that murk and that mess, it leaves us too icky sticky to be able to actually receive the cleanliness of our soul, the purity of our soul, and to begin to actually create what it is that we need to create. Like, we need to create something in this life. But when we have so much filth, we can't create the thing we need in this life. And therefore, next time, buddy-o, and that's what the velocity of women. We have such a power, trailblazing velocity, that the filth, okay, we're not seduced, we are psychic, we're aware of what you're doing to yourself, we're aware of what we're doing to ourselves, but we are using the higher incarnation of the mantra to get us through. We're using the magnetics of the earth, of the cosmos, to get us through, to get what we need, so that when we get what we need, the collective gets what we need, because that's women. When we get what we need, the collective gets what they need, because it's the same thing. And therefore, when the collective gets what they need, there is a level of integrity and dignity that is manifested from the authenticity, the genuine care, share, and inclusion that women bring, because it's higher intelligence, and that brings psychic awareness, that brings healing, that brings intuitive guidance, that brings a direction, that brings productivity. When overall woman is in empowerment, sovereign mind, self-governing, self-responsible, that is what makes a woman in her inherent gift as a woman. Through thousands of years, it's still inside the woman, and that's creation. Women can access creation, women can alter creation, women can create creation, women can reorganize creation, women can set the framework for creation, women can destroy creation, can improve, modify creation. It's all in the woman, because the woman is the doorway in which creation channels through. So when a baby happens, it's the woman. Creation is all up in the woman. And when she has that baby, it's proof of that woman's access, doorway to creation. And men need that doorway, because through the access to like a higher intelligence, men now all of a sudden have access to their soul. They have access to what they came here to do, or what they need to do for fulfillment of their destiny, or their true reason for being here, which a lot of boys don't know, because a lot of mothers, their creation is shut. The door to creation is shut. So little boys, they go to their mothers for guidance, and the mother is just so closed. Her door to creation is closed, so she got no intuitive, nothing to give. Okay, even men, they're with women that have no door to creation open, it's closed, and therefore they're just fulfilling a status quo, and men are just getting what they need, and women's getting what they need, and it's transactional, but it gets boring after a while, because nobody's really being led anywhere exciting, anywhere evolutionary, extraordinary, so that gets boring, okay? And what happens is it's just the status quo life, and that doesn't lead anywhere, does it? So women, empowerment is open door to creation, and open door to creation is that extraordinary man. There are extraordinary men because either their mother, grandmother, or somebody had such a magnetic doorway open to creation that it rubbed off on the men, and gave the men good luck, it gave the men blessing, it gave the men good fortune, and then therefore the men became magnetic, and the men got things through their just determination, but their determination was very true to them, because they had it in their aura through the mother or the grandmother or a friend that's a female that rubbed off on them. That good luck, that good fortune, that creation doorway. Okay. So I'm gonna leave you all with these ideas. This is like a 50-minute video. And I had my rose quartz with me. Rose quartz is very good for the Venus energy. Very good. The Venus energy. So I just want to say one last thing. Projection is not reality. Propulsion is reality. So when you're being propelled, when you're moving, that's empowerment. That's reality, because energy is reality. When you're projecting, a lot of times it is non-reality in the way that you are projecting narratives or thoughts or sort of ideas that you think are sort of realities or you identify as realities. Projections can create stagnancy. It can create loops. Propulsion is when you are propelling yourself, you're moving forward with your life. And that is energy. Energy is your reality. So you can create that projection and put into propulsion and propel forward with that and lead to destruction or self-sabotage. But overall, if the projection you have is not propelling you forward, it's not real. So if you have a projection of this negative sort of loop of storyline of what happened and you don't want to be propelled forward, you could just end it there. Or if you're being propelled in this direction that's negative, that's based off a projection that you have of yourself and your low self-worth and your low pity and what your woe is you, then you can, again, you can use your propulsion skill to actually say no to that projection that led into being propelled, and you can use the propulsion of, let's say, mantra, or let's just say empowerment, to literally move you. So even if that projection's still going on where you feel like, oh, I'm not good, I suck, if you are doing physical things that speak of empowerment, eventually that projection will change or non-exist because you're being propelled in a positive direction. So anything that's being propelled, if you're moving your body, that is empowerment, that's strength, that's will, that's grace. If you still have the negative thoughts or the negative projections, the past, present, or future, it will eventually become obsolete or just disappear, because energy goes where you are moving. So where you're moving, thinking, it's not necessarily moving unless you begin to see it. Literally, you're acting upon it, you're responding to it, you're living it. Okay, it could just be a possibility. Okay. So propulsion makes possibility reality, and you that's the thing about creation. It's not serious if you have negative thoughts, okay? Because the energy is the propulsion. So if you're being propelled through, you have a good daily practice of spirituality or empowerment, those negative thoughts, that's okay, because you're still on a pretty good longitude and latitude with your soul. You're on a pretty good line of energy. But if you're on a bad line of energy and you're projecting thoughts of, I'm going to be success, I'm going to be victory, that's non-reality, because you're on a point of energy that's speaking of not success, not victory, because your reality is self-sabotage, destruction, arrogance, addiction, all of that kind of stuff. So that's the kind of thing about, the thing about, yes. So mantra really is a way to get us on a propulsion or being propelled in a line of energy that actually speaks of empowerment. So therefore, negative thoughts come up. We're being so propelled in empowerment that they come up, but they dismiss themselves. Okay? So just wanted to share that because I felt guided. So that's pretty much it for the lecture today. I hope that this has served you all. So thank you and namaste.